Welcome back to the Transform with Angels show. Today's conversation is, of course, about personal transformation, but as it relates to optimizing our health, our vitality, and our youthful energy. We're diving deep into topics like the importance of a healthy lymphatic system, anti-aging protocols, and how you can take charge of your health to look and feel younger, more energized, and full of life. So, I want to dive right in and introduce to you our guest today. We have two special ladies here. This first lady is a woman who speaks my language. She is a wealth of wellness knowledge and a specialist in a topic that I have a personal interest in learning more about. Susanna Furlanic is a San Francisco Bay Area native and a certified applied lymphologist. And for 2 decades, Susanna has been an educator and an advocate for the science of epigenetics and youthful aging. Susanna has spent 21 years empowering people to transform their wellness and anti-aging goals, combining advanced science with natural solutions. Love that. All about alternative health here. Susanna is married. She is a mother of 2 daughters and a grandmother of Jameson. She enjoys traveling, cooking, playing music, her family, and has a passion for the study of consciousness and the mindsets of champions and self-mastery. Welcome, Susanna. I am so excited to get to know you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Angel. This is it's a joy to spend this time with you and your audience. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Well, our second guest today is someone I have a great admiration for, especially for her drive for personal freedom. I don't think there's a greater commodity than freedom. I admire her lust for life and her pursuit of her passion. I mean, you've got to love humans like this. Amie Chilson is a world adventurer, a storyteller, a visionary, and a longevity and youthful aging advocate. In 2013, she experienced a profound call to adventure that changed her life. I hope we hear a little bit more about that. Then she became a realtor in San Francisco and traded in her stiletto heels and power suits for board shorts and flip-flops and became a world exploring backpacker and filmmaker. Amie has to be one of the bravest women I know. She's traveled solo to 42 countries. She loves culture, food, mountaineering, some of the world's tallest summits, including Mount Kilimanjaro. And this spring, Amie will climb Mount Everest Base Camp in the Himalayas of beautiful Nepal. Amie's favorite quote is by Joseph Campbell of the famous hero's journey, and she wholeheartedly agrees. She lives it. Follow your bliss. This is exactly what she's been doing as she follows her heart and adventures around the planet. So, welcome, Amie.
Thank you, Angel. I've been so looking forward to this podcast with you and Susanna.
So glad you guys are here. And ladies, I want to learn more about you. I want to start off this interview with something I call the Journey Gems segment. This is just high energy, quick, short answers, bites of wisdom from your transformational journey. This kind of lets our audience know that you are human. You've gone through your own transformation journey to get you where you are today, to the woman you've become. And we want to learn from you in that regard as well. So I'm going to start with you, Susanna, and ask you, we're going to go through these 6 questions, and they relate to my 6 stages of transformation methodology. So it's a little bit of a process that we go through. And it typically starts with some aha moment. some event or trauma, crisis, something that really changes our life. Was there a moment in time for you where you realized it was time for transformation in your life, or perhaps something that transformed your life?
Oh my gosh. I could think of two moments in my life that just changed the trajectory completely from, just the light bulb goes on and it goes, oh my gosh, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm in my late 20s. Of course, I'm born and raised into a loving family, but they were really highly religious, and I was in that um, upbringing. And when I met Amie, I saw that we had a corollary there. It's been so interesting. And so, as a child, I would, for the lack of better words, we're programmed to think that there's certain events in life that have to occur in the sequential order. Like you grow up, you go to school, you go to college, you get a good job, you get married, you have children. There's this community, societal programming, conditioning. And so I was completely immersed in that. And I wanted to be a really good girl and do all the good things and, just that mindset. And so I strove really hard in school, got good grades, all those things. And then when you're out in the real world, okay, out of that sort of incubational sheltering, right? And you're out in the real world, things in life then start to flow, continually flow in that direction. So I'm thinking, here I am, you know, um, I was 18 years old, 19 years old. I fell in love and I had a child at a very young age. So within 3 years, I was divorced. Okay, so I'm a single mom and I had no idea how to raise a child on my own, 18, 19, 20 years old. I had a full ride scholarship to an engineering school because you strove so hard to get to where I think I'm supposed to go. So I try to get all the good grades, got a full ride scholarship, and here I am trying to go to school full time and raise a child who I had no idea. I have relationship. I'm like, this is not the way it's supposed to go. And emotionally, I'm all over the place, I'm like, what am I doing? And adulting isn't so fun. Adulting is not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm going into my 20s and late 20s, and I'm trying so hard to survive, to keep a head over I'm on my own, trying to pay all the bills. I'm on my own, literally solo raising this child on my own with no financial anything, and trying to figure it out. So I'm in a state of mind where I have to survive. What I thought was what I did all the right things growing up and doing all the good grades and all the things. And then I hit a wall emotionally, mindset, because I was like in this foreign territory and I was struggling and I was trying to figure it out. Um, it was about, and I went, I got a great job and but trying to survive. And there's two moments in life. So I'm leading up to this moment where someone, it was a good friend of mine who handed me a book. And this is where I completely, Amie knows this story. It was a Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And it said, read this book. It's really good. That's what he told me. So I read the book. And that was my first point of education about, you know, being financially free, like go and do what the wealthy do versus what the poor was doing. And because I felt poor, because I was struggling financially, I thought that was like my bubble. This is what I do. But when I opened that book and read through it, an author is educating me and thinking, no, expand your awareness. There's a lot more potentiality out there. You just don't know about it. You weren't taught about it because your poor dad taught you. And so I had that first aha moment in my life. I was like, wait a second. You mean I don't have to struggle? I can actually pivot into another area or lane of my life. And that changed my trajectory. I started my own company thinking being a boss was like the thing to do. And you're young, you just kind of absorb everything and you follow direction, you know? And so I quit my job and I'm a single mom. I quit my job and I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm an adventurer. So I will just ready. I just aim fire and then I go. Get ready. I just move. I'm taking a risk, and I was a risk taker. And that led me down the path of, Amie and I know about becoming a business owner and taking control of, my life in that perspective. About 28, 29 years old. At that time, at the same time, I was engaged to a man that I thought I was going to be married to for the rest of my life. So I thought I had that relationship part handled because I'm going single. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have stability in my life and my relationship. Suddenly, overnight, it was gone. We decided it wasn't the right thing for us, and that broke my heart. I mean, to millions of pieces. And that was to the point where I thought, when you break up with somebody that you felt like that was the person, and they're gone, it's like a death. It's like the feeling like you've lost somebody. And I was going through that emotional turmoil, and it was really dark for me. But I knew that in my heart, in my soul, I knew it was kind of the right thing to do. But my ego was struggling it was struggling to reconcile what I was experiencing. And so I was searching, my soul was searching for answers, for reprieve, for peace, for some kind of take that hurt edge that, you want something so you could feel a little bit better about what's happening. And I stumbled across, wow, when you're ready for something new, when you're ready for it, it shows up. And I ran across the works of a teacher, a spiritual teacher that I highly resonated with, because I was in a dark place, and I was reading, learning about this incredible person, man. He actually is very well known. He said, everybody on this planet, all we're looking for is to be happy. That's what we're a real reason for here, is to feel purposeful, to be happy, to have joy. And so that was my awakening. I actually had that question in my mind, like, what do you mean we're supposed to be happy? It's like, because growing up in a highly religious, conditioned environment, there's a lot of programming in that environment. So it's like struggle, and it's all these things, these conditions. And then to have somebody say, no, that's not reality. That's not truth. Your soul is here to experience who you truly are, as a being, to know thyself, to self-mastery, so that you can be your authentic self, to be happy and to have joy in everything that you do, purpose. And that completely resonated with me. Matter of fact, the what's her name? The gal that wrote the Biggest Secret in the Secret movie, Rhonda. Oh, what's her name? The last name.
I
But
know.
everybody,
I have it on my shelf somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
She did her second book, The Greatest Secret, and highlighted this man I'm talking about. She says that he is one of the greatest masters that I learned so much. And this is the man. And for about 5 to 8, I would say 8 years, I studied with the direct student of this master. And that's where my passion for consciousness, that's where I developed that. And so those two things, with my passion for breaking free from the rat race, I would just say, and falling in love with consciousness and health, because it's all tied together. This temple of ours, if we can understand how to thrive, this is why I love the science of epigenetics, because the mind and the body are so connected. We can truly influence how our body thrives or doesn't thrive, based on how the quality of our thinking, based on because there are receptors in our body. The cells are always listening. Neil Diamond Walsh talks about this. I understand you have him as a guest. The cells are always listening. And so they will react to, what we tell it. So anyway, that's a sort of a long story, but I hope that answers your first question.
Yeah, chock full of wisdom in that answer. Wow. I mean, I am just amazed at your journey and the strength that you must have had being such a young mom. And I mean, and then the other part of me, the numerologist part of me is like, oh, but of course you went through a 9-year cycle, and that's usually when these massive changes occur. And it's usually around the age of 25, 27
Mhm.
that we
Mhm.
have our like awakening, if you will. But we go through 9-year cycles. And so you went through a tough 9-year cycle. And we all kind of do. It's a learning process. So I would love to do your number someday. We'll definitely do that. We'll save that conversation for another day. But wow, wow. So you've had a couple major, major turning points that put you on this path. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing and opening up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, Amie, I would love to hear from you and how your journey began. What aha moments you have, or what changes occurred in your life that put you on a transformation journey.
Thanks, Angel. I've had a few, like Susanna, several turning points. And
Yeah.
the one that comes to mind that was the most impactful was about 2008. And I had a real estate company at that time. And this was when we saw the market start to go down and then crash back in the summer of 2008. At that same time, my soul had been calling me, first a whisper and then louder and louder, to wake up, to understand my infinite nature and who I truly am. And I felt like I had been living out of alignment, and it had started to manifest in my relationships and my, I guess, misalignment for real estate anymore, even though it was continually going down right before the crash. I just felt like this was not what I was supposed to be doing. And then it was manifesting in my body. I had put on weight and there was problems with my skin. So it was just me living out of alignment and not listening to that soul calling was showing up in so many different ways. And so I finally paid heed. I finally listened, and I was being called to wake up, to understand. And I needed to understand why I was here, the truth of my existence, who I really was, so badly. It felt, if I could liken it to, I was swimming deep, deep, deep underwater. So I'm a diver, and if you're doing free diving and you're going down as far as you can, then you realize, oh, I'm really running out of breath. You've got to get to that surface. If you don't get to that surface, you're gonna pass out. So for me, that's what it felt like for my awakening and transformation was I needed that first breath of truth to who I truly was. Because I felt like I had not been living in alignment with that, or I just didn't understand, I didn't know. And so when I finally did get to the surface, that first gorgeous breath that you need or you're going to pass out, right? And then once I got to the surface metaphorically, I wanted to fly. And so that's what happened during that time, the soul calling me to wake up. And I did this in many different ways, through a lot of book reading. And actually, Neil Donald Walsh had a huge hand in my awakening with conversations with God. That inspired me to do past life regression work, QHHT, like Dolores Cannon, to understand my past lives, future lives, purpose here. And I focused deeply, like it was my full-time job, to wake up deep down some rabbit holes, some very shocking information that I was re-remembering at the time, but it felt so real and peaceful. Like I finally, like I was like, oh, I can breathe again, coming back to who I truly am, and had covered up with ego and ignorance. And at that same time of having this huge aha, which felt like the most amazing, was when the real estate market crashed and I ended up having to close my company down and bankrupt it. So there was a lot of transformation happening in that time. It says a little bittersweet, but I knew just from the peace that I was feeling then of being in alignment with who I truly was, coming back to myself, to home, that everything was working in my favor. Even it appeared as contrast, as what we classify as bad, I knew that by surrendering, everything was drawing me to the path that I was supposed to be on.
Rendering. That's the key. Beautiful. We have so many parallels. I mean, I lost count. Wow. I can't wait to have more conversations with you, Amie. That's beautiful. And it's like once your soul makes itself known, you you cannot do anything else than follow that calling. And not a lot of people understand that unless you've had that experience. It can't, I can't tell you how many times I've tried to go back to a mundane job, life, and my soul just can't do it. I can't sustain that. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Wow. Thank you. Beautiful. All right. Second question. Susanna, what was the most difficult thing that you had to release during your transformation journey, and how did that impact you? There's always something we have to leave behind in order for us to move forward. So what was that
Ooh,
for you?
that's a great question. Oh man. Surrendering. Well, the first that I can remember, the most difficult was when you're born into a family that says that they love you to death. They do everything for you to thrive as a human being. But you know in your heart all of the conditioning that they try to instill, thinking that innocently thinking that they were doing the right thing for you. And you look at the contrast of what you know to be true for you and that, and you have to kind of let all of that go, your past, like really letting go, not judging them as, like my family, not judging them to like, oh, they were wrong, but to really release that whole entire, what, all that, all that I knew to thinking to be true, but having to let that go and say, no, that wasn't what I thought to be true. It was all an illusion. Really, it was thought up, made up, and I had to let go all of my past. I had to let go and surrender to where I was going into. That was super difficult for me, because it's like you're going into the dark, you're going to the unknown, the darkness, but you know that your soul, like you just said, your soul is calling, and the ego is like, no, I don't know that, I don't know that territory, and it's like this fight, and then you finally surrender to it, and you just find out you can fly.
Yeah.
But it took a while for me to, finally get through it all. And you said that 9-year cycle. I think you're absolutely right, because it was a difficult. I look at my 20s and I think, wow, that was my most difficult time, but I don't regret at all.
That's excellent. No, because you see the growth and the lessons and the beauty that came from it. You had to experience that. It's what we had to experience to get to that happiness place, for our soul to evolve. And regrets don't serve us at all. So
Yeah,
that's one thing to release. But I totally understand about the belief system and leaving your old belief system behind because it's evolved into new truths. And what you grew up believing was no longer resonating as truth. And
yeah,
that is a hard thing because where you're going it can be scary. Great
yeah,
answer.
yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Amie, how about you on your journey? What was some things or major thing that you had to release?
There's some similar, Susanna and I were both going through, I would say, the major onion peel of our awakening and transformation at the same time, which was really great. This was back to 2008, that time frame, because we were doing it in our own ways. We were both seeking, going down rabbit holes, awakening. You go through the dark night of the soul sometimes for a while. And so it was really nice to have a companion on that journey, because one of the hardest things for me during that period of massive awakening and transformation, that I was journeying up the mountain of consciousness, if you'd like to have a good analogy here. I could see things so much more clearly from up here above the smog, right? I was in a place of just surrender, like we said, of flow state, of being, through me, divine mind, and so many downloads and creativity coming from a just completely different place, out of ego or out of victim. So I was raising up the consciousness and awareness, and at the same time, I felt very lonely on my journey because my husband at the time, and then most of our friends, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what I was going through because we were at different levels of consciousness and awareness. So I received a lot of criticism, ridicule. Um, Ultimately, my husband and I were moving at different trajectories in our consciousness, and we got divorced. God bless them. There's no judgment for anyone. Everybody's on their own journey at their own pace. And, we're infinite beings of life, a light. So we go on and on and on. It's wonderful. We're all just walking each other home on this journey. It's during that time, though, because so much information was coming through me and I was expanding so quickly, it felt very lonely because I left my old tribe to seek new tribe that I was aligned with. And one of those people, thank goodness, I had in my life is Susanna.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, ladies, the journey that we're all experiencing, and probably many people who are listening are experiencing this transformation journey, is the road less traveled. It's so much easier just to sit back in your comfort zone in what you know and not step into this beautiful unknown void of life that has just so much to offer. Exploring that elevated consciousness is probably one of the most beautiful things that I've experienced as well. That new sense of awareness. It does, I don't want to say separate because we are all one, but for those who don't understand it, it separates them from us. We'll never be separated from anyone or anything, but unfortunately, until they have their experience, and I have to trust that that's why they're here, they'll catch up and then they'll understand. I've had a lot of people call me later on and say, I finally understand what you're talking about. And my ex-husband was one of them because I had a very similar story. Really interesting. All right, let's go to the next question here. There is a time in the transformation journey where we have to just chill. It's the rebound stage. It is rejuvenating. It is taking a deep breath, like you said, getting yourself back together after we've kind of felt broken apart, putting the pieces back. Susanna, how did you rejuvenate yourself, either emotionally, mentally, physically, during your journey? What are some things that you did that worked? I know you had some great masters to align with.
That's a great question. Thank you. I think that period of time when I was working with in this beautiful organization, it was all about releasing too. It was about letting go and surrendering. And that was the whole premise, to let go of the struggles, to let go of what you thought were struggles. So there was a period of time where I was practicing a lot of that. And when you're in the state of surrender and you're surrendering, like, Amie said, you start to connect, or actually not connect, because we're always connected to that beautiful intelligence, is that we slow our mind, I call it little mind down, ego mind down, slow it enough down so we can hear it, or quiet it down enough that, this is why a lot of people meditate, is to try to get to the state so we can connect and hear inspirational thoughts and new quality of thinking that's trying to come through. It's always there. It's just that we don't do enough to, or slow our ego down to be an open channel for it. So I spent several years recalibrating, I guess you would say, recalibrating to that new level of consciousness, and um, and rejuvenating and really understanding who I was. Um, and in that period of time, I found my love. I've been with him for almost 20 years now. Um, I've had a new child, and so life was completely different. And in finding my true purpose and passion, and allowing myself to take that passion, follow it, and just be open to what comes from that act of following your passion. Because sometimes what I did learn is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
I love
I'm
that.
not afraid of the uncomfortable. Actually, I welcome and I'm open to the uncomfortable.
Yes, and I know Amie is completely in alignment with that, putting herself into situations where there's the unknown and discomfort of the anticipation. I mean, I'm with you. I love change. So I'm sensing a lot of five energy from you, Susanna. That is the
It's
adventure.
my life number.
Is it? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. So that's great. So a lot of the surrendering, did you do that through meditation? What was the practice? I'm curious on how you went about surrendering.
Your audience might be familiar with the Sedona method or the release technique. So it was the master of that teacher was called Lester Levinson. So he was a physicist, and he had his own spiritual awakening where he just completely had that enlightening experience. And like he saw things from a perspective like a small number of people probably have an opportunity to see it that way. But being a physicist, he wanted to create a framework so that other people can, kind of plug into this sort of systematic way of self-inquiry so that you can release and surrender and keep letting go. Because it's like the onion, you're just kind of peeling away, peeling away. And so that kind of started my practice. So it wasn't so much as a meditation, but I did start doing at a certain point in my life the meditating part as well. I just couldn't sit still long enough to allow myself enough grace to stay in that meditative, quiet place. I'm always like this, okay, let's go. I'm gonna have an adventuresome energy until my husband and I came across the work of Sydney Banks. He is just incredible. He had his own lightning experience, and the way he saw things was a little bit different than the first person. And he saw that he was this poor Canadian welder that was struggling with his own wife, with his relationship. And his wife were about to get divorced, and they said, "Well, let's go to this, this therapist. Let's go talk to these, see if we can do something here." And he's really depressed, very insecure. And so he went to this retreat with his wife, and he went outside for a smoke break, and he's smoking outside, and this therapist comes out and said, "How's it going? How you doing?" He's like, I'm okay, but you guys just make me feel insecure." And then the therapist said something that Sydney truly heard with a capital H. He said, "You're not an insecure person, Sydney. You just have insecure thoughts."
Mm, yes.
And he heard that to a moment where he saw, wait, I am perfect. And I mean, he saw something so deeply that he knew he was perfect in itself, just having insecure thinking or thinking. So he created this incredible work called the Three Principles. So we sort of delved into the three principles where he was able to see how people, human beings, operate in the sense of how life and reality actually, how we experience life, how it governs life through mind, thought, and our consciousness. And he created it so simple that that all of the thousands of therapists and psychotherapists went to him so they can adopt his framework to help their clients and their patients. And that in itself became work so that I became a student of that work, and that took me to a whole other level in
Love
my
it.
own journey.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm always looking for different ways to elevate. Everybody's, has been introduced to different practices and things. So I'm going to look into that for sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Amie? How did you rejuvenate, recalibrate after you were going through such loss and transformation?
Well, I felt, thank you, Angel. I felt like I was such in alignment with who I was that even though certain parts of my life like were misaligned and just they were, once again, we're always connected but falling away. So friendships, even marriage, my company, the old me, the old identity falling away. I felt such at peace in alignment with discovering who I truly was. My body started to manifest with this knowing, like I dropped the weight that I put on, my skin cleared up, I got really healthy. And that's without doing anything physically. That was just, it was all from my mind, right? The emotions healing and becoming more elevated and high vibrational, connected to who I truly was. I will say this, because my environment necessarily with friends, business, even my spouse at the time was not so conducive to my journey of awakening, which was pretty intense, like intense. Like I really went down those rabbit holes. I did the past lives. I took myself on, like I said, full time. There was nothing more important than transformation and awakening. That was it. I knew I needed to give myself a more conducive environment. So I spent a lot of time in solitude. I would go walk and walk and walk in nature by myself, silence. So I always suggest this to people as one who's walked 7 pilgrimages on the Camino de Santiago. I could spend days happily, blissfully walking in silence and solitude. And it's so good for the soul because we need it. We need to get quiet with ourselves. And we have such a scattered, loud, environment, especially if you live in a big city, that the soul requires that solitude and silence to really go within.
I love it. Solitude. I think going back to hearing that voice, solitude, that's the only way to hear it. You can't hear it with all the noise of people around you, especially people that don't align. So that's, yeah, I found a lot of peace in solitude on my journey as well. That's excellent. Great advice. The next question is, at what point did you reimagine your future? I mean, the next stage of transformation is when we really start to reinvent ourselves. You've kind of hit on this already, Susanna, but what steps did you take to align with that vision? You have this new, improved version of you emerging. What did you do to start reinventing yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, through the work of Lester Levinson, who was the first master, the teacher of my teacher, and he wrote some books and did a lot of talks. And there was one quote that stood out to my husband and I. Quick story, which relates to why I started doing things a little differently. Is like he's 46 years old, had a major heart attack, live in New York. He was struggling financially. And his doctor said, you're going to die. Go home, get your affairs in order. You're going to die. He goes home and he's like really upset that everything that he thought he knew about life wasn't serving him. And here he is young in his 40s, and he's about to go die. And he just said, this is not it. This is not what I'm going to do. And so I said, I'm a physicist. I'm going to go into the internal laboratory of my mind, and I'm going to try to figure this out and see if I can reverse this. And he started self-inquiring and started looking for parts of his life in his past where he was really upset and mad and angry, low energy, negative energy. And he saw, well, there's nothing for me to do other than just sit here. So what if I just took what that memory, those struggles, my old loves. And what if I can reverse them, reframe them in a sense where instead of seeing anger and having judgment, I can reverse it and see it as love, see it as unconditional love. And when he would do that, he saw that he feel lighter. His body responded to that. And so he saw, that's interesting. And so he started taking areas of his life from his past and started reframing it. And every time he kept getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And he said he had so much energy in his body, so much energy that he came into a state of euphoria. And from that state of euphoria, he said, I would go out in the middle of the New York nights and I would walk and walk just to try to get this energy out. And he healed his entire body. He lived on to be into his 80s. And he amassed, he would walk around New York and start to say, I'm totally abundant. I could buy a building if I wanted to. And he started seeing things in his unlimited self from that perspective, from that lens. He could see he was unlimited. And he became a millionaire from that. He saw things. So it was a beautiful story. And he said in this book, he said, we are always creating all the time, whether we know it or not. We're always creating. If you want something, you desire something in life, you see it clearly as if it's already done. And you feel it as if it's done, in its doneness, it said. Feel it, taste it, feel it as if it's done right now.
Mm.
And then let the picture go. And then surrender it. And so my husband and I caught on to that quote and said, okay, there's something to this quote. What if we could take this and do it for ourselves and just think of what we want to create? So now we go from life happens to us to, wait, we can create what we want to experience. So we started adopting and embedding that belief system in a way. And we tried it with little things first, because the mind is very skeptical. And it's like, okay, well, let's see if it works with little things. And when that starts to, transpire, starts to realize, then that kind of reinforces our belief. And so we started continuing that and continuing that. And so we are absolutely certain for us, my husband and I, and we teach our kids that we can create, we're masters, and we just think we're not. But when we get past the fact that we are and we can create, the world opens up to all possibilities. So I hope that answers that question. But
That's
yeah.
beautiful. That's perfect. I mean, I do a lot of visualization exercises in the workshops and training that I do, but attaching it to that emotion, feeling what it's going to feel like when you're a millionaire, feeling what it's going to feel like when you are 3 sizes smaller. I think that's got so much power. That is probably the most powerful thing you can do when you're reinventing yourself, is keeping that vision alive. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Amie, how about you? At what point did you reinvent yourself, and what did you do to get there?
I'm going to flash forward to 2013. That was a big year for catalysts for me. And I had moved to San Francisco. I was living with my boyfriend there in Russian Hill. I'd gone back into real estate. So the fancy clothes, doing that lifestyle. And once again, getting that voice from my soul, like, this is not you. This is not what you're supposed to be. It's misaligned. Everything's misaligned. The city that I lived in, how I was operating, a little bit more out of ego again, materialistic. The boyfriend was out of alignment, the career, everything. And what I had been doing actually since I was a child is a lot of quantum jumping, what Susanna said, like that deep visualization where you embody that energy already. And so I had been getting this calling to leave that whole life, everything behind, give all my things away, and to, like you said, to put on the board shorts and the flip-flops and go start traveling the world as a backpacking nomad and teach myself how to become a filmmaker. And it was a complete 180 from what I was doing then. However, I had already been quantum jumping to this badass traveling nomad filmmaker version of me, this iteration that I knew already existed, spending time embodying and bringing that back into this iteration, this reality, that it felt like it was already real because it existed. And so when I made this leap, I remember I had asked my boyfriend at the time, because he could also do his job from his laptop. I'm like, come with me. Let's go travel the world together. Let's have adventures. You can work from your laptop. I can work. Let's go. We'll be free to have all these journeys and adventures. We can do it. And I remember what he said to me. He said, Amie, you reach too high. You're always reaching too high. You can't do it. And I remember thinking, like, he must be just projecting himself, because I know it's possible. I've already seen, felt, and been this other version, this badass traveling Amie version. And I remember we broke up the next day, and I did leave everything behind and start a whole new version, which I had already gotten a huge taste of. So when people were shocked with this massive life transformation and change, what appeared on the outside, how did you go from that to this to that, and in like a drop of a dime, Amie? Like, I'd already been there in my quantum jumping. So to quickly learn how to become a filmmaker and to travel solo and go everywhere, be brave and courageous in the face of uncertainty, it's like I had already had, that vision was so clear and I had already been living in it. It was such an easy shift for me.
Awesome. Wow. You understood the power of the vision and you just followed it. And you're living proof that it works. I mean, if anybody needs a role model, go follow Amie because she is living it. I love it. I love it. Usually, after we reinvent ourselves and we start becoming comfortable with that unknown and this new improved version of ourselves. And many times people will step onto the path and then revert to their old selves. They'll go, no, 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 the unknown is too scary. And they'll go back to who they were and just be comfortable there. But if you continue down the transformation journey, you go into the next stage of transformation, which is resurrect. You literally rise above and resurrect to that higher state of consciousness you ladies have both mentioned. You rise above all the obstacles, becoming that new version. You're living it. You're on autopilot. It's second nature. You don't even have to try anymore. There's no fear. It's a beautiful place of harmony and synergy and balance, and you manifest things like no problem. It's just all the messengers, your tribe starts showing up. This is, I think, I get the sense of where you both are right now. So just a quick answer to get from the reinventing stage to this place. What's one quick piece of advice that you can give the audience to overcome what residue of fear that might have been? Susan,
Oh,
what
that's
do
a
you think?
great question. Fear is really, we're feeling our thinking every single moment. Okay. This is one of the profound understandings that I learned from Sydney Banks, is that we're always constantly feeling our thinking. Just take a lemon, take a bite of lemon. You can think of taking a bite of a lemon wedge and your body salivates. That's how quickly we're feeling our thinking. And then understanding the nature of thought, because fear is just stemming from our thought. We think we are fearing something. So look at thought, and I say, well, look at thought. What's the true nature of thought? The true nature of thought is it's energy. It's just energy. So how are you despite your thinking? You know, it's like our default setting as a human being coming into this incarnation is well-being. All of us, that's our default setting. And just through conditioning through life, we start to create these illusions from, from conditioning from society, from education, from family. And so, but it's all coming from thought. If I could sit with your audience or have it, if we can look at everything we have fear from, you just look at it. It's just look at it directly for what it really is. It's just thought. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Not giving it any power.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Because when you let the thought go, and
Mm.
I work with a lot of people in that practice, when you let it go, let's see what else comes up. And behind it, they start to see beautiful quality of thinking emerges from that. And and then they feel better. And this is the reason why we visualize, is so that we can feel better.
Absolutely. And then it shifts our emotions. That's really powerful. Good stuff. And I love the lemon analogy because I imagined it and I even got the bitter taste. I love lemon, but that was really good. How about you, Amie? How did you overcome any of the difficulties, the obstacles? Because you even went back and then you decided another time, it's like, no, this isn't working. So what was something that you did to overcome that?
What really helped me, Angel, was being anchored in my why, my passion. And so having that be so clear and juicy, real, for me, I wanted freedom like breath in my lungs, just like that first layer of awakening. I needed to get that first breath above the surface of being able to be truly me and to create. I love to create. I cannot not. I love to create in so many different beautiful ways and travel and explore. So even though being faced with like, I don't know what's going to happen when I get to this country, or receiving, ridicule from naysayers, or having, logistical challenges, or even, some tight spots where I've gone through some pretty adventurous places on this planet. People might not even believe some of these stories because they're so outrageous. And yet as a female solo traveler, I'm safe, unharmed, fine, is just really remembering, why am I doing it? And it, like you said in the very beginning, was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you. It's like wanting to feel fully alive. So many people go through life feeling mostly dead or numb or not tapped into their why and their passion. And it does bring you to life, and it's going to carry one through whatever obstacles that they're facing, including fear, if they can just completely marinate and hinge themselves to their why and their passion, their purpose.
Absolutely. Beautiful. You made me think of my own quantum hypnosis experience just right then and there, because I really didn't know my why until I had that experience. It was in between two lives, but then I knew my role as a soul in this life. It was like, no question. I knew it. So we can maybe do a whole episode on that some other day, but fascinating knowing your why and how you can explore that purpose, because so many light workers and people who want to make a difference just don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know my purpose. So that's a really big question. You're very fortunate to be really clear on what that is. So just to feel alive is so simple, and it could be in the simplest things or in the biggest things that you're doing. That's beautiful. Okay, well, this is the last stage of transformation and the last question in the Journey Gem segment. Susanna, how has your transformation journey inspired you to help others, give back?
Oh, that's a great question. Like Amie said earlier, when you're climbing up the mountain, and you start to see the view differently, and the higher you go, your perspective expands. My nature is to, when I get excited about something, when I see something, I want to talk about it. I want to share it. I want to show the groups of people that are at the base camp and say, come up here. The view is beautiful. There's nothing to be afraid of. And be that sort of Sherpa in a way, kind of like it's come up. And the higher I go, the more that I can see, the higher levels of consciousness I want to share with others. Because when I see somebody who's struggling, or they're stuck, or they're in that space of, I don't know what to do, and you can help them or give them a different perspective, I don't see any other purpose in my life because I've gone through my own journey, to turn around and say, okay, I think I can help you. I think I can give you that reprieve to guide you sort of in that way. I found my purpose through my own journey, like you're asking me these questions, and it just helps me reflect. And from that new understanding or new levels of understanding, I feel I have an obligation when I see people struggling, like I've been where you're at, and I think I can help. And that's the joy and satisfaction, that purpose that comes from that experience.
Yep. Full circle. I mean, what's the point of going through all that if you can't do something with it and share it?
Yeah.
And absolutely. How about you, Amie? What's been the motivation behind you wanting to help people and the biggest takeaway from your transformation journey?
Well, I understood when I was going through my first major transformation and dark night of the soul, that big awakening, that we're here to be of service. And it's a joyful purpose to be of service. Like I said, quoting Ram Dass, we're all here walking each other home. We're infinite beings. We're going to go on and on. So to see that, and to see that some of us wake up sooner than others, and we can, like Susanna said, be the Sherpa and help lead someone up the mountain of consciousness to have a higher perspective and elevate their consciousness, is a joy to be of service. And one of the ways that I really have loved to do it, if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, 3 parts of the cycle. So there's the call to adventure, which I experienced, and unlike Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit that refused the adventure, I was chasing after it. And then the hero goes to, the unknown world, the new world, a strange new world where it has all the trials and tribulations, and that's where a lot of the growth happens. And then at the end of that, the hero returns home to the village, his people, his tribe or her tribe, to share the wisdom, the wealth, the knowledge, the treasure, whatever it is, the secret that they've learned on this journey and in their journey of transformation. And so as I'm out traveling the world and filmmaking very authentically, very raw on camera, as raw as I can be, I get to be in my own hero's journey at all times, while, because of the internet, because of filmmaking and the advancements of technology, being able to do at the end, which is share with the tribe, with the people, real time, vicariously, what's happening on that journey. So people will be seeing this authentic adventure and journey, and they see me stumble and fall and fail. And hero, you need to see the hero bleed. And it becomes more relatable because we're not hiding from what's truly going on through our own journey of awakening and becoming more conscious, and development of character. So being able to show that truly, authentically, and not have to wait to get home at the end of the journey has been a blessing for me, because it does touch people's hearts wherever they are. They're going to identify with certain aspects of their own contrast in their life, what they're experiencing, lessons, trials, tribulations, but also because I'm so real and raw, that also opens people up to becoming that as well.
Yes, exactly. Another example of your incredible bravery and display of vulnerability, humility. There's more power in humility. I think that's probably the greatest leadership trait there is showing your vulnerability. And that's fantastic. And I mean, you're living it and displaying, you're doing that beautifully. So thank you, because you've inspired me. And ladies, that was a master class in itself. That was a show in itself. But I definitely want to pull out your wisdom as it relates to our health. Thank you so much for sharing some personal aspects of your journey, because everybody's going through something, and it helps to have some words of wisdom from people who have experienced it already. So thank you. That's some really valuable stuff. Lots of golden nuggets in there. But speaking of vulnerability and humility, I would like to just share a little bit about why we're even having this podcast about our lymphatic system, because I have a personal story that I am so invested in learning about this stuff because I went from training for half marathons and then I had just a minor procedure. But then after that, I blew up. I'm like, what's going on? Well, short version of the story, Hurricane Ian came through Southwest Florida, wiped out our house, and we had tons of water damage. And we would come back to our house and, clean it up, clean up the yard, clean up. So we were playing in the mold and the toxins that were left behind. And what I didn't realize was my body was not able to break all these toxins down. And I couldn't understand it. Well, I think that's when I came across you, Amie, on the internet somehow in my researching. And we connected and I started really learning about the lymphatic system. And I'm like, oh my God, I never knew anything about this. So here we are today. I have an expert in front of me. I also have someone here, Amie, that you've had similar experience that you can speak of. So I'm going to be picking your brains, ladies. I know, Susanna, you've spent decades educating people about the lymphatic system. I mean, it's a critical role for our health. Those who may be listening who have no idea, like me, know what the lymphatic system is, what it does, and why it's so important for our overall well-being. If you can explain some of that.
Yes, of course, absolutely. My pleasure. The lymphatic system, we call it the unsung hero because without it, we'd be dead within 24 hours. It's a critical aspect of our health, and its role is to help our bodies eliminate toxins and unnecessary foreign bodies from our body. So, like you were saying, you were living in an environment that had toxicity. So you were being bombarded by environmental stress. We call it environmental stressors, oxidative stress. So, and everybody in this planet experiences every single day a bombardment of oxidative stressors through the environment, through the food we eat, through the clothes we wear, the processed food, where we live, the air. We are being bombarded. And to keep it really simple, these stressors are called free radicals. These little molecules that go into our body and they go to your cells and they try to destroy the cell. And so people are walking around with oxidative stress levels that are so high, and the body's trying to compensate, trying to protect it. And so what the lymphatic is trying to do is trying to help the body to release the toxins that are causing oxidative stress in the body, causing inflammation. So if people are feeling sluggish, tired, fatigue, joint aches, they can't lose weight, they have the head, stuffy head syndrome, foggy, foggy head. They have puffiness in their areas, and we think we're just heavy and fat, but it's not. It's just a lot of lymphatic fluid. We actually have 3 to 4 times more lymphatic fluid in our body than we have blood serum. And its role is to circulate through our body out of our urine, our digestive, when we sweat. So saunas are a really good place to get rid of a lot of, our lymphatics. So it's like the garbage disposal system of our body. That's really what it does. And it helps keep our immune system in balance as well. So it plays a critical role. I have a couple of visuals I can share with your audience.
Yeah, let's jump into that.
So we have a lymphatic network of vessels, all from the top of our head all the way down to our toes. And it lies below the surface of the skin. You see those little green nodes, those lymph nodes. So we probably heard of lymph nodes. And the lymph nodes are collecting points. When the lymphatic fluid is allowed the opportunity to flush through the system, it goes up to the chest and out down. This allows like blood, like the blood in our heart and lungs, the lungs like a pump. So the lungs and the heart, they're beating, and we breathe. We are pumping blood through our circulatory system. The moment we stop breathing, our heart stops, and then it's done. But unlike the heart and the lungs to pump our blood, in order to pump the fluid, we need to muscle contract. So muscle contraction in the form of exercising, walking, doing resistance training, moving the body constantly to muscle contract is aiding the lymphatic vessels to pump this fluid up the body and down through where it needs to go. Unfortunately, we have a lot of sedentary lifestyles due to, working at our desks all the time, and the elderly generation is also sitting a lot, so they're doing less exercise. So what happens is that when this fluid isn't pumped, it becomes stagnant. It's like if you think of a lake, and lake, in order to keep it fresh and clean, it has a sort of a current that allows it to recycle. But if the current isn't functioning and it's just there, then the lake starts to build up toxins and mold and all these things. And so it needs a way to circulate through to become fresh again. So it's kind of like that. So we need to have that pumping action. Otherwise, we start to feel the symptoms of a sluggish lymphatic system in the forms that I talked about earlier.
That is fascinating. And I'm looking at the areas where I was looking really chubby. And it's in my face, my armpits,
Mhm.
around that groin area, and then also like down on my knees, like the joints, like what you're saying. That's so helpful. It makes perfect sense. In my case, I had all those symptoms you mentioned and probably more. Brain fog, fatigue, like tiredness would come out of nowhere. I have to go lay down immediately. I couldn't function. People get diagnosed with all kinds of things, chronic fatigue syndrome or autoimmune disease. There's all these other names for this, but it really just boils down to helping the body eliminate the toxin.
There's some root causes
Yeah.
that we can speak to that you have sort of the bookends. So you have the ability to detox. So there's that helping the body. But what's causing it also, the oxidative stressors, the free radicals. So the body has a way to protect the cells at the cellular level with, they call it antioxidant. We actually produce antioxidants in our own body. In science, they say, Dr. Richard Cutler, he was the anti-aging research director of anti-research at the National Institute, Health Institute, NIH. And he did a whole deep dive in the science of antioxidants as it relates to longevity and health. And it said the amount of antioxidants in your body is directly proportional to how long you will live. That was the summation of his study. The body, if it's protected with enough antioxidation, because the antioxidants are fighting, the little fighters are fighting the oxidative stressors. They're fighting the mold, they're fighting all these things. So if they're strong enough to fight it off, then the body's ability to release and detox is also strengthened. So we kind of have to look at it from like bookends, like raise your antioxidant levels and help the body detoxify. Then you're really helping the body
Yes.
do its job. Mhm.
Through movement, really, is one thing that you mentioned, and maybe later we'll get into some other things that we can do as well. But let's talk about the connection between the lymphatic system and anti-aging. Because one of the symptoms I noticed was I was getting wrinkles. Like suddenly, I looked at my face and was getting like these necklines, and I'm like, it seemed like they just came out of nowhere. What is the connection there? I'm curious to know how that's related to the aging symptoms as well.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at one more graphic here. The doctor that I studied under, Dr. Stephen West, he's where I learned so much about the lymphatic system. He said that tissue, or so a tissue in our body, when they're struggling to survive, when cells are struggling to survive, because the role of our cells is to communicate, to provide nutrients to our vessels, to oxygenate and thrive. That's how we stay alive. That's their role. We have over 60 trillion cells in our body. When there's oxidation or there's toxins and things that are surrounding the cells, or they call it blood protein, then if there's enough of it, then it starts to starve the cell. It starts to, they can't breathe, they can't do their job, and we start to have cell die off. And that's linked to chronic issues, chronic illnesses. And now if you start to see aging, it's also accelerating aging because now we're not protecting the cells. The cells, when they're protected, they're thriving. We have production of proteins. A lot of it's down to proteins and collagen and all of those things. But when we're allowing the cells to die off and not function, then everything is linked to that. So faster aging. If you take an apple, you cut an apple in half and you put antioxidants like in the form of lemon juice on one side and you leave it to the air, the side that's not protected is browning right away. So it's starting to age faster. So that oxidation starts to occur faster. So if we're not helping the cells to stay youthful, then they start to age faster. And so we start to see the things that we start to see in our the lines of wrinkles, the loss of collagen production. There's the proteins are not as thriving as they could. But the good news is it's reversible.
Yay.
It is reversible. Just because we're in our 50s and 60s and we're going into perimenopause or menopause, because I get a lot of those questions. Oh, it's just I'm at that age and that's what happens. And I call it BS, total BS. Because I have seen specimens of humans that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s that have the bodies and the vitality of a youthful person. And then the ones that are didn't take care of themselves and they're struggling, they're aging faster. And it comes down to science. It comes down to understanding how your body and your mind are interconnected, and then empowering people with knowledge and understanding so they can say, okay, I understand what my role is, the body's role. Now I can help it, empower it to do the things I want it to do. So this, like right here, like if you see on the right side, these are cells that have a lot of blood proteins, and we start to see a disease state. So it's a wet state. When you're detoxifying and when you're using breathing, exercising, jumping, or using other modalities, then you're releasing the blood protein through the lymphatic system, and you're entering back, the cells are entering back to, we call it dry state. And that's why when Amie uses some of these products, she lost 25 pounds of lymphatic fluid that just dropped from her body.
The wet state is the puffiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what we call the water weight or whatever,
Yeah.
right? That's the puffiness. So the wet state is bad, dry state is good. That's where we want to be. Okay, well, that makes sense. It's always fascinating for me to know what's going on inside my body when it's happening. I feel like once I know what's happening on a cellular level, I can do my part to help heal it. And this visual is wonderful. Thank you. Amie, what has been your experience with lymphatic health? We've had some conversations about it offline, but maybe you can share your journey to becoming healthy and youthful looking. Besides climbing mountains, what else are you doing?
I also believe, and this is a whole different theme for another podcast show, when you're joyful and you're living a life of bliss, it completely radiates out. Sometimes when people ask me, they're like, how are you like about to turn 48 now? And I still get carded for wine and like a lot of it has to do with joy, just being joyful. And I will say Susanna has done such an excellent job at educating me. Up until a year ago, I knew very little about the lymphatic system. And I knew that I had lymph around my body. Most people know here if the lymph gets swollen, that's a sign, an indicator you're about to get sick. So I knew minimal things about the lymphatics. So then when she gave me this crash course and deep dive, feel like I got an honorary degree in lymphology with all the work we've done in education. I realized right away, whoa, the lymphatic is the key to everything. And I had been a very healthy person, good diet and supplementation, water, exercise, sleep, all the right things. And I wasn't understanding, like, I'm puffy. I feel chubby. I look in the mirror. I remember one day I got out of the shower. I was looking in the mirror naked, and I'm like, man, I am chubby. And I didn't like it. I wanted to feel more lean and healthy, back to where I had been before. And so she had taught me some things about lymphatic and different modalities, which we're going to get into later today. And I started applying them right away. And like Susanna said, I dropped 25 pounds immediately. My body just shrunk. And I thought it was fat. And maybe there was a little bit of fat there, but most of it was the fluid retention and toxicity that had built up in my body, that even though I was very active, I still had over time, and we are a very poisonous species. We have to be very aggressive with our detoxification, like all the time, detoxing. Once I got that from Susanna and I started applying it, my life changed because my health completely transformed. I must have one of the healthiest lymphatic systems now. And I've kept the weight off. I feel great. I'm getting older chronologically, but I feel biologically I'm going backwards. I'm reversing my aging process. I'm getting stronger, Angel, and
Yes,
more stamina and more energy and vitality. And I know that's what people want.
absolutely. What an inspiration to know that this is even possible. We don't have to buy into that old belief that we're just getting old. This is just part of the body decaying, and that's fantastic. Can you share a little bit about what you did to lose 25 pounds? I mean, I know the audience is probably on the edge of their seat right now going, how did that happen? So, give
Yes.
us a little teaser on that, would you please?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll let Susanna show some visuals and share more about the innovation and technology behind the scenes. So I had already been doing some of the things that we share. And there's a gift at the end of this. We'll share a link with a special free gift to 7 natural ways to detox the lymphatic system. So if people are looking at, oh, which way is right for me, we have that for your audience, which I'll share at the end. And so I had been doing some of those already. So we talked about muscle contraction. I don't have a rebounder, but I'm a tap dancer and I run and I hike. And so I'm very active. So that movement of jiggling and muscle contraction, getting the lymph moving, I have been really good at that. However, there's, toxins, like Susanna said, are being constantly bombarded at us from every direction. Even if you try so hard and you eat healthy and you drink a lot of water, you do all these right things, we're constantly combating and defending against free radical damage and all the toxins coming at us. The way that she taught me to rapidly, and how I dropped 25 pounds, was through a brand new adaptive microcurrent device, which stimulates the lymphatic system, which is right here below the skin. Like she said, 3 to 4 times more lymph fluid, lymphatic fluid in our body than we have even blood. And so I didn't realize that I had just been puffing up with toxins over time that I had just not released yet. So by using this microcurrent technology handheld device, you use it at home, even within a few treatments, my body started going back down, depuffing, getting smoother, nicer. The pain and inflammation that I had from car accidents, like, oh, my chronic pain was gone. I didn't get the migraines anymore. I started seeing and feeling all the toxins leave my body. And that's when I saw my weight just drop. And because I continually use these modalities and practice regularly, I've been able to keep the weight off and not get the pain back here in this neck and back area.
That is an amazing success story. We definitely want to hear more about that device. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I do want to touch on the anti-aging protocols and some steps to staying youthful. I want to kind of get back to that as well, because everyone wants to look and feel younger as they age. I don't know anybody who likes looking old. I just haven't met them yet. So, Susanna, I know you spent 21 years studying anti-aging. What are some of the most effective lifestyle changes or habits, supplements? What can we do to incorporate that into our routine to maintain a youthful appearance and stay active longer? Keep that vitality.
Yeah, that's a great question. So thank you. Amie said there's two parts to this attacking anti-aging. So one is, of course, the epigenetic side. Epigenetic means above. So we have our genes, but then we also, our genes are influenced. So our genetic blueprint is how we are as a human, our body's physicalness, right? And the genes can express themselves. Think of it like, there's a twin study, prolific twin study, where they took pairs of twins, the same DNA, same parents, and one twin will go off and, they lived a life of, they were successful and joyous and all these things. And then the other twin didn't have the same life. They had struggles and challenges, and mentally they were just struggling. And they put them together and brought them together. And one looks 20, 30 years older than the other one. Okay, so the point of that study is to show that even though we have the DNA, we have influence in how we appear and how we biologically age. Because we're not going to chronologically stop our aging. That's just what's happening. But biologically, we have a lot of empowerment. There's a great book by the name called The Aging Myth. I highly recommend it. The Aging Myth by Dr. Joseph Chang. He's an incredible scientist in this realm of epigenetics. I learned a lot from his science and just understanding that we can empower ourselves to slow down aging, biological aging. The things that we can do from that perspective, knowing that we can slow it down and even reverse it. He said something that stuck to me, Dr. Joseph Chang. He said, I'm going to age chronologically, but I want to have a quality of life where it's just at a certain point, I'm 80 or 90 years old, and then I just fall asleep and it's lights out. But up to that point, I had a great quality of life. Most Americans and other people that don't have that understanding of aging, and they adopt this belief system that we are going to suffer on the path to that point in time, we call it declining of quality of life. And we just think that's how it is. We look at our grandparents or great grandparents and we kind of think, oh, I'm related to that generation or generation, so that I have that in me, that I'm going to look like that, which is completely, I'm sorry to say, but BS. It's completely like, from what I learned, people were saying, well, I have the C word in my line. Okay. My parents, my mom or whatever would say that. But does mutated DNA serves about 3 to 5% of all our health potential. 3 to 5% of all of the length of DNA that we have. The rest of it we have in our control to empower it with our mental well-being and our physical well-being. So it's a little bit. Just because our parents suffered from high blood pressure or chronic illness or kidney disease, it does not mean we will be living under those same potential conditions. Science says no.
And our healthcare system puts so much emphasis on that. They want to know your family's health history and what diseases, and it's such a small percentage. Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So educating, and this is, Amie and I's mission this year is to really just educate this year about what we can do to empower ourselves to raise our abilities, our body's ability to fight off oxidative stressors like what you're experiencing, the environment. Because if we can slow down the spigot there of getting bombarded by all these stressors, and cause inflammation, that cause the sluggish lymphatic, that all these causes, and we can minimize that and then help empower the detoxification factor, then we're going to start to feel more vitality. We're going to feel more energy. The body is such an incredible machine. It's also recycling and revitalizing every single organ. Our liver in 6 months can regenerate. I mean, our heart, everything can regenerate because we don't have one cell, and that's the one cell we have for the rest of our life. Our cells are always replicating. And under the right conditions, the cells can replicate to a healthier cell, and you're having more health, So I'm pretty passionate about this.
Yes, no, and and I'm thinking of the ripple effect, right? The big picture, like I'm this visionary of I want to change the world. But imagine just if everybody did this and paid attention to their lymphatic system. Because you walk around today, I was at the airport, I'm like, everybody is so grumpy. Nobody is smiling. Nobody's even talking. They're down on their phone. They're going to age like this, instead of aging like this and, creating wrinkles of joy instead of, we just have all these RBFs, these resting bitch faces. And you look around, everybody's got one. And you're like trying to smile to make people smile, even move your face muscles a little bit. But anyway, I just think that we would be a happier society if we were detoxed and paid attention to eliminating the toxins. I think to your point, Susanna, it's controlling the toxins that go in, but then helping the body fight them. That makes all the sense in the world. And then you're going to feel younger. You're going to look younger, like what you were saying earlier. You feel happier, more joy, and that always makes you look younger. You just have a healthy glow about you. Amie, I know you've managed to keep up with some intense adventures, climbing mountains, and you've got Mount Everest on your bucket list here coming up. Besides staying fit and embracing just a physically demanding lifestyle, and I would imagine you train for that type of stuff, do you follow any specific like anti-aging or recovery routines that keep you feeling energized and youthful to want to go climb that next mountain?
Great question. Yes, and Everest is I'm going to be in the death zone, 50% less oxygen. You have to be conditioned and very healthy, and also in extreme cold. So at high altitude hiking, one of the things that's really helped me, and you'd mentioned you'd done marathons. I was also a marathoner and triathlete back in my 20s, early 30s. I was taking some type of vitamin supplement. I thought it was good, but I didn't know. I had no way of knowing if it was working in my body or not. I just had to blindly trust. Oh, they say they make these claims, so they say it's good. So paying all this money, it must work. And I remember I did this, call it the health lie detector test. It's a machine that Susanna has, and it's called the biophotonic scanner. And like less than a minute, it would read the carotenoid level in my skin and basically tell me, do I have antioxidant protection against disease and illness or not? And in that lie detector test, I found out the truth about my health as a triathlete and marathoner. This is before I started high altitude hiking, Angel, and my score was really low. I was paying all this money for vitamins, like a whole regimen that I thought was working. But if it was working, it would have given me a high score, showing me that I did have the antioxidant protection. So that was a huge aha for me. Like, why am I throwing my money in the trash here and not getting the protection that my body needs against disease and illness, plus all the energy that I need as an athlete? And so shifting to the right type of supplementation that was guaranteed and proven through this machine that would raise my score. I raised my score really quickly when I shifted to proper supplementation and educated myself. And so what I can share, which is really exciting, especially because I've gone on some really, say, dangerous adventures, some really dirty places around the world with exotic foods and, just where a lot of people would end up getting sick. cold weather, extreme cold, very harsh on the body as an athlete. And I never get sick. I just don't get sick. I am always well energized. And it feels like for my recovery, for my pre and my post doing some of these big events, as well as being in certain dangerous conditions where most people probably would get sick and even be out for a while, that is a huge testimony to me that I have so much energy and that I'm always well. They're working.
Fantastic. That's what we all strive to be like. Paying attention to our antioxidants, and that's another thing that I am learning more about and what is an antioxidant. Do you have any tips on what we could be eating or taking more of? Maybe a natural antioxidant that's just at the grocery store. Anything that's working for you there?
I'm going to pass this one to you, Susanna, our expert here.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, you could find antioxidants come in all forms of vitamins. There's over 80 antioxidants that I understand. There's probably more. And they're typically found in colorful fruits and vegetables. So the colorful ones, also in greens as well. Eating at least 9 to 12 servings of organic fruits and vegetables a day is often required for the average American, or well, it doesn't matter, it's anyone to have a substantial level of antioxidant protection in the body. We've done a lot of scientific research on this. We've done a lot of testing, 30 million tests to substantiate that. We found in that data that in America alone, out of 30 million, the average scans are in a scan of 10 to 100. So 100 is the highest, and optimal health is around 40, 50 tests. They're in the 20s. It's in the 20, which is very reflective of the SAD diet, standard American diet. And that's just diet. So taking dietary, just looking at what you're eating and understanding what's causing oxidative stress in your body, inflammation, seed oils. I mean, there's a whole class we can do on that.
Mm-hmm.
And switching to colorful fruits and vegetables, 9 to 12 servings a day, or take a really highly bioavailable supplement that have the proper cofactors so that all of the ingredients, the minerals, and the vitamins are synergistically enhancing your protection. One of the things that we tend to do is thinking we go to the store, because the supplement industry is not regulated. So we go to the store, we're thinking, oh, we need a vitamin C, I'll take that bottle. Oh, I need a D, I'll take that bottle. And oh, I need a multi over here, I'll take that bottle. Because we're not chemists and we're not biologists, we just think that because it's marketed, that's going to be a favorable response for our body. In most cases, that's actually not a favorable response, because if we don't understand how vitamins work together synergistically, we actually can be canceling each other out. It could be actually causing toxicity. That's a whole other class. But so find either eats 9 to 12 fruits and servings of fruits and vegetables per day, or find a really high quality supplementation that's got the science behind it to show that, yes, all of the ingredients are synergistic and will work in your body.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And keep your lymphatic system healthy and clean, and so your body can detox and keep those cells healthy. One way that we can do that is through a microcurrent device that Amie mentioned earlier. I want to bring that back into the conversation. Amie had introduced it to me a while back, and I started using it and seeing some pretty phenomenal results. But I'd like for you to please explain what it is and how it works. I actually have mine here. This is what it looks like. It's just a little handheld device. It's like a little magical piece of technology, let me tell you. But I'm going to have you explain what it is and maybe even show some pictures of before and after. I'm not brave enough to show mine yet, but maybe there will be a day that I will be vulnerable enough to do that. This is such a powerful tool and advanced technology for what we're talking about. So if you would, please.
Yes. So to help our lymphatic system circulate, because we have to get it out of our body, it requires muscle contraction. So even as little as touching, massaging. So there's professional lymphatic services that people can go to. And I've seen pictures before and after a single massage section, and it's really intense. They're really massaging out the lymphatic. You could see um, a depuffing of the skin before and after. And this is, a few $100s a session. And so they're just working this lymphatic fluid out. What I loved about this technology is that we can do this on our own. We can save the time and energy to go and do this on our own. And what I loved about the design and the engineering behind it is that it's got a smart sensor in it. So it's measuring your skin resistance. And based on the feedback it's constantly getting, what you might need in certain parts of the body will be different in other parts of the body. So it's adjusting the currents, and it's using a microcurrent, small microcurrents, to help the body stimulate the lymphatic and the blood proteins and release that fluid. So the current is actually a special aspect of the device, but also even better yet, it's adjusting the treatment all the time, 100 times a second. So you're getting customized, treatments, and they could be different each different time that you use it. And so what's helping the body, it's stimulating the muscle through microcurrent, and then the special wavy aspect of the nodes, it's actually moving the lymphatic. And then there's also movements in which that you help the body. So if you're working on your arm, you always go towards your heart. The lymphatic network and vessels have these little flaps. And they have a flap because you only want the lymphatic fluid to go one direction. You don't want it to go back because then it's not good. So you want it to go back one direction. So we help the body go up. So if you're working on your legs, you're using it to work up your legs towards your thoracic, towards the heart. And then you're helping the body to get rid of all the bad stuff.
It makes sense. And I have seen the results are pretty instantaneous. That's what's kind of freaky. You can see the puffiness go down, even like the next morning. I look thinner, like my arms and everything. So it's working. I'm not quite at the after picture, not even close, but I can tell it is definitely working. Do you have some before and after pictures of the results? I mean, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you'll get to
Yeah.
see some pretty amazing transformations here physically using this device.
Yeah. I'm going to take a look at an injury. And this is also for injuries as well, because so this gentleman broke and had surgery. He had a metal bracket put in with nails. He had an accident, so he had a lot of inflammation and he had swelling, edema. And so the lymphatic is stagnated here in this area. So what they did is they used it on that swelling, because the discomfort that you experience when your muscles are swollen or your limbs are swollen, it's coming from all that fluid, that proteins I was showing you earlier. It's all around the cells. And so we used it for 3 minutes, and within 3 to 5 minutes, the swelling completely went away in 15 minutes. So it done its job. It went up to the heart. It just, you could see the swelling reduce and the pain rate level reduced as well.
That's
So not
amazing.
just for non-injury, it could be also used for injuries as well to help aid in the healing process. Here's some here. You could see sluggish lymphatic right here. This is very common in women and men. One of the tail signs of sluggish lymphatic, especially we have lymph nodes near our breast, okay? And we have what we call a puffy armpit. If you see a puffy armpit, you need to work it. It needs some detoxification. And so she utilized this, and you could see immediately the body responds very quickly. The lymphatic stimulation responds very quickly. So it's not a week out, it's literally per treatment. And you could see the thinning of her arms. It's not from fat, it's from lymphatic fluid.
Yep. And that's a common thing that women just chalk up to aging. My arms are getting flabby, and you got that flabby underarm. You don't even want to wave to anybody anymore. That's fascinating to see the
Yeah,
difference. And that's one of the places where I've seen a huge difference using that device for myself.
yeah. And she's young.
Yep,
She's,
exactly.
I mean, youthful, younger gals are experiencing. Now, here's a stomach. Now, they're finding while they were using this for wellness benefits for the lymphatic, because of microcurrent, the nature of microcurrent is stimulating skin, and the skin responds to electricity and it starts to tighten the skin and starts to do all these other things. So there's these side benefits that users get as a result of using it for wellness, tighter skin. And that's the beauty about microcurrent. People go to the med spa to use microcurrent on their face to look more youthful. But why not use it on their body to help for detoxification and get both worlds? I have so many pictures.
So can
Here's
we
another.
use this on our face?
You can use it on your face. It wasn't designed for your face,
Right. I
but
never
I've
even
seen
thought
people
about that. Wow.
use it. Yeah, here's another one. I'm using arms because it's an easy example, but I've seen stomachs. I've seen, because we do carry a lot of, if you're stressed out, we have higher cortisol. So we have more cortisol belly. It's really what's going on there. So we have to, if we can figure out how to lower our stress levels, but for aesthetics, people are finding a lot of benefit from using this device. Loose skin, women who've had babies, they have that loose skin, flabby skin. Tightening happens with microcurrent. If you have Chat GPT, just look it up. What are the benefits of microcurrent therapy? And it's just a list of benefits there.
We've also seen this work for varicose veins, and I know my mom has varicose veins and neuropathy. She's used it on her legs and feet. Immediately after her first treatment, she said, "I can finally feel my foot again." So people are getting so many different results, whether they're beautiful body contouring, really transformational, or they're releasing pain and varicose veins or cellulite, and they can now, where they didn't have sensation anymore, they can actually feel their body parts like neuropathy.
Yes, neuropathy is a very common issue for sedentary lifestyle too. It's just that for whatever reason, it could be due to injuries as well, that you're laid up in bed, haven't been able to exercise. But it's also very prevalent in the elderly generation, and they sit a lot, so they're cutting off their circulation, and so their feet, they start getting edema around their ankles. This device, I've used it on elderly. I've used it on your, patients with neuropathy. I had a gentleman who came and he was dragging his entire leg, 6'4", huge guy. He said, I need to have a knee replacement. I have no feeling in my feet. And I said, well, let's sit. You have 15 minutes? And he said, sure. I said, can I try this on you? And I did. He got up after 15 minutes, and I was moving the fluid, the edema, from his ankles up to his heart with this device. 15 minutes later, he got up, starts walking. He lifts his leg because it felt so light to him. And he turns around. He's like, he looks at me with his wide eyes. He's that, did that just do that?
Wow.
Like, he's, I haven't felt my leg that light in months.
What a great story. The truth is, if you look at pictures from like the 1970s of people on the beach, a crowded beach, everybody looked thin and healthy and, looked like we're supposed to look. When you see these before pictures on what toxins are doing to our bodies, it's time we get back to where we're supposed to be, having healthy bodies. And so, how can somebody get a hold of one of these devices?
I'll take that question, Angel. obviously they can reach out to you, to Susanna, to myself, and then we'll have a link here that they can click on in your description that they can get all the information that they want to know in depth about the device, how it works, frequently asked questions, some before and after pictures, and some videos, as well as how, if they decide they want to purchase this for themselves or their family, because the whole family can use it. Once you own it, you can use it at home. The kids can use it, elderly. It's wonderful. And it does feel like a miracle device. And so they'll have that available to just click on that link and they can have all their questions answered. And the opportunity, if they have anything that goes unanswered, they can reach out to us or to you, and we're happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you for being available to everybody to answer questions. There are med spas that offer this technology for thousands of dollars. This is not that. This is very affordable, and you do it in the privacy of your own home. So it's wonderful. I'm a huge believer. Well, ladies, as we're wrapping things up, I do want to ask a couple key questions here to close out the show. Talk a little bit just about mindset, because I want to tap into your expertise once again to wrap things up. Susanna, you have such an interest in the study of consciousness and the minds of champions, as do I. How can cultivating a youthful mindset, let's start there, how can that actually influence our physical health and longevity? I mean, all these devices, all these, jumping around, this is all great, but what about our minds?
That's a great question. I'm a big searcher for truth. Like, what is real truth, And when I discovered the truth of the two things that were pivotal for me, the truth that we're all here so that all we're looking for, every human person, being in this planet is looking for just to be happy, happiness. That's our nature. And I've always looked for ways to tap into what's going to bring me passion. What is it that I could be doing? I often ask this question. If it's Friday night and I wasn't getting paid for it, what would I be doing on a Friday night that would be fun and playful and fill my soul? And I lose time because I'm just so in the moment. And that has always been a practice for me, is to look for the things that bring me passion. I also look for truth about my passion when it comes to health, our bodies. And when I discovered and encountered, I was looking for it, the demystification of aging, the book I mentioned earlier, The Aging Myth, my soul, I knew, I said, there it is. There's a truth there that I can align with and I deeply resonate with, because we're told, out of just, innocent ignorance, maybe, that things are supposed to be a certain way. And I'm a rebel in that sense. I think Amie is too. It's like, but let's look at the other side of the coin and see if let me look at the whole picture. And when I discovered that, no, it doesn't have to be that way. I love empowerment. I love educating, but looking for truth in what I look for. And I check in with myself to see if it's resonating, and is it a level of, is that truthful? Is that really true? I really question, because there's so much out there. We have to cultivate a discerning sense, to kind of identify what we are being told, maybe just for whatever reason, but really discern, is that truthful? Anyway, I'm a searcher for truth. And when I find something that's in alignment, that says that rings true, then, that's the direction I go into. I just dive into it. And so
That's
those
a
are the
great
two things
tip.
in consciousness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great tip, especially today, because you can't just believe anything you read or hear anymore in the news, or reading on the internet or in the newspaper, if you still read the newspaper. Be a seeker of truth and be mindful of the information that you are putting into your mind and your thoughts, because that does shape you. If you believe you're getting old, and if you're one of those people that say, "Oh, I'm getting old. It's just age. Everything hurts." You keep convincing yourself of these things. They're not true. It's because your mind, your body is responding to what your mind is telling it. So definitely seek truth and what is true for you. I love that. You're rebels. Yeah. I think we have that in common. Amie, following your bliss, how has that impacted your mindset and contributing to your overall health and staying young? I mean, what's the tip that you have?
Well, it does all come down to mindset. So I'm glad you brought that up. Um, really, it's about self mastery. We came here to master ourselves. And I believe we've done it many, many times throughout time and space. And this is a very interesting journey of self mastery. And I want to take us back to Joseph Campbell, who coined the phrase follow your bliss, which I resonate so deeply with. And I know you're a fan of like Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. She said those are the two most one of the most powerful words uttered by a human. Because when you are in that state of bliss, you're tapped in, you're in the flow state, you're in alignment, you're not in ego, you're not in victimhood, you're in a higher level of consciousness where things just flow. You're closer to your true self. And so back to the hero's journey, sharing with everyone that we are the creator of all of it. We're all on our own hero's journey, right? Everyone is the director, the producer, the star, the casting agent, the writer. We are the editor. We're all of it. We're creating everything. And I know sometimes that can be a little hard to get the mind around, but we're creating it all. And if we need to write in a plot twist and transform ourselves, and go through a twist in the storyline, we're the ones that we can create it. And once we see that we're the creators, I think it's very empowering when somebody gets it. They're like, accountability and responsibility. I manifested that. I created that. I, innocently wrote that plot line that, I lived for a while until I realized that's not in my higher alignment. Now I know too much to go back to that old storyline. I'm writing a new one. And so what I would share to people that's helped me, what I've discovered is I'm creating it all. So why not write the best storyline possible? And to
Mm,
really lean into that and to live that, body that example.
yes. Talk about a mind shift, knowing that you you can create the outcome and you're not stuck where you are. If you want to transform your life, you have the power to do that. That's excellent. Wow, powerful stuff. Well, I'm going to ask one last question because we started this conversation about the lymphatic system and detoxing and being healthy, and we had so much knowledge and wisdom. I would love for you to share just a couple quick tips that somebody can start implementing like right now while they're listening to this podcast, even. What can someone do right now to simple lymphatic self-care techniques that listeners can do and try at home that might get them started? Susanna, do you have any ideas?
Very simple tip. Go out and walk. Go take a brisk walk, even though I know it's a little bit brisk outside. Chill. Sometimes that shock is actually helpful for the system. We try to comfort ourselves and shelter ourselves, but sometimes the shock actually helps add more benefit. So if you can't go outside, do a minute of heavy belly breathing. So deep breathing will help stimulate a lymphatic response. So those two little tips, easy, you can start that right now.
Excellent. And I was also told in the walking thing to move your arms as best you can. So I take my dog for a walk, which that's really hard to do when you've got a leash that you're holding onto. So I went and got one of those leashes that go around my waist. And now I can walk her and move my arms. It's awesome, game changer. So thank you. Got to keep moving.
Keep
Amie,
moving.
what advice do you have?
I would second that motion from Susanna. Is like movement, move the body. The body has so much wisdom, and to be sedentary all the time feels out of alignment. I understand some types of people, if they have an injury, they need to, demobilize, or maybe they're elderly and they can't. But if someone can, or, you know, take that opportunity, you've got to get things flowing. You feel so much better when you do. And then I guess the last thing that I want to add to that is self-care is so key. People to prioritize themselves. Sometimes people get so busy with family, jobs, this and that, and they neglect themselves. And I say that if you're going to be any good to your family, your work, your career, what you're creating in life, being of service to humanity, you have to put on your oxygen mask and really prioritize your own self-care. And that ultimately leads back to self-love. Love yourself first.
Beautiful. Great wrap up there. I agree. Self-love and put your mask on first. Having those boundaries are really powerful. Nothing's more important than your health. So take care of yourself and love yourself enough to be healthy. Well, ladies, I cannot thank you enough for this incredible conversation. And thank you for your time and sharing all of your wisdom and expertise with us. I'm going to continue to learn from you, and I would love to continue the conversation on some of this anti-aging topic, because it's really important. And not only anti-aging, but staying youthful, keeping our bodies youthful and healthy. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you,
Thank
Angel.
you. Wow, what an incredible conversation today. We have learned so much from our amazing guests, Amie Chilson and Susanna Furlanic, about how we can transform our health and our well-being by embracing the power of the lymphatic system, all these anti-aging protocols, antioxidants, and how to live with vitality. We talked about the importance of detoxification, boosting energy levels, and how a healthy lymphatic system can not only unlock our weight loss, but also a more youthful, radiant version of ourselves. Susanna shared invaluable insights into how epigenetics and alternative therapies can empower us to take control of the aging process. While Amie reminded us of the power of adventure, positive mindset, and living with purpose as a key to staying youthful and vibrant. So, as we step into this new year, it's time to take our health to heart. It's time to become fully aware of what we put into our bodies, the food, the products, even the stress and the emotions and the thoughts that affect our well-being. And even if you're taking supplements, do your research on the supplements themselves, because we've learned today that not all supplements are created equal. So as you begin the healing journey, or maybe you've been on the healing journey, remember that healing begins with awareness. And as Amie said, self-love. And real transformation happens when we take intentional action. I want to leave you with a powerful and personal affirmation, as I do with all of my shows. Repeat after me and say these words with conviction. I am committed to my health. I choose to nourish my body with care, releasing what no longer serves me. I welcome healing, energy, and transformation, knowing that every step I take brings me closer to the healthiest, most vibrant version of myself. Great job. Remember, you have the power to create the changes that you seek and the changes needed to live your healthiest life. Explore the possibilities of alternative therapies and embrace the practices that resonate with you. And take small, conscious steps every single day to support your body's incredible ability to heal and thrive. Thank you for joining us today on the Transform with Angels show. If today's show inspired you at all, share it with somebody who might need to hear it. Like the video, comment on this message. I would love to hear your thoughts, and leave a review if this podcast resonated with you. And be sure to go to transformwithangel.com and download your free ebook and subscribe to my newsletter. And don't forget to check the link in the description of this video to go order your own Renew Spa microcurrent device so you can create your own success story. Until next time, keep transforming, take care of yourself, and step into the most healthiest, most empowered version of you. You deserve nothing less. Until next time, be your best self.